We have a very special guest for you. This is Thad Bergschneider. And Thad is just been elected president. We don't worry about the recent election, but president of the National FFA. And Thad's an Illinois boy, Morgan County. Tell me about your farm and your family and all your upbringing over at Franklin.
Yep. Franklin, Illinois, in Morgan County. I'm one of 7 kids. My parents, Paul and Janie, and then my siblings, Luke, Bethany, Clark, Brindle, Gracia, and Thane. So a big crew. I'm third out of the 7, and raised on a family farm. So we raise corn, soybeans, and cattle. And it's my dad, Paul, and then my grandpa, Joe.
Okay. Now, when my family grew up on the farm, there were a lot of kids because labor was needed. You've had your dad had a lot of labor on the farm too then.
Yeah, he did. He had plenty. Any project, hey, we need somebody to help clean out the grain bins, you've got plenty of kids to pick from. So it worked out for him pretty well. But he says he always knew he wanted a big family. He's Catholic. A lot of Bergschneiders in the area are Catholic, and our family is kind of non-denominational Christian now, but, Catholic values, big families, I think that's where it really started.
That's probably part of the reason that you are where you are. I always ask people who are in a relatively high place, either them or their folks, what was their upbringing that allowed them to get to where they are?
Yeah, I like that question. There's actually kind of a funny analogy that I used in one of my rounds for the process, which is that we're all turtles on fence posts. And I saw a speaker use that, and you sit there and you go like, what does he mean, turtles on fence posts? Lets you stew on it for 10 or 15 seconds, and eventually he just tells you, like, only way a turtle gets on a fence post is if you put it there.
Right.
And the only way we get where we are today is if people help us, if they lift us up and put us where we are. So remembering that we're all turtles on fence posts, we didn't get here by ourselves, that's pretty important.
Fabulous. And I hope a lot of people will remember that, because the ones that have heard you say that and you use that, I hope it gets on. When you were getting into high school, understand that you didn't necessarily interested in agriculture at school or FFA or anything like that, but you've had a major turnaround.
Yeah. I'd say it's just because my skills are a little bit different. And at first, I thought I didn't want to join FFA because of that, and I'll explain. In that my grandpa, and I'll use my grandpa as a good example, my grandpa can run machinery like an extension of his body. He's just been doing it for so long. I mean, you see him in a skid steer or a bobcat, and like it clicks. And with animals, like cows that we've got, or even like a little cousin, he sees a person or an animal, knows when they're in pain. Like he just has like a sixth sense for animals, for machinery. I like animals. I raise turkeys, I raise hogs, I love being around our cattle, but my skills are kind of interpersonal, more than anything, and that's why I am where I'm at today. But my skills are interpersonal, communication, research, books, all these things that I enjoy doing, and business a little bit. But it took me a while to figure that out. And when you're floating around with these interests of communicating with people and writing poetry and reading books, I look to my brothers and to the people around me as like, man, I'm not just let's go out and I do like bucking bales actually, but as much as my brothers, like I wasn't the little kid who was memorizing John Deere tractor numbers,
Right.
As much as I played with my tractors on the carpet, I was more of asking my dad, how a bank works and how interest operates. So my interest took me in a different direction, I'd say, at first, and then all of a sudden, boom, they circle back to agriculture, because all interest and skills really do.
So a pretty good circle here, and at that point, you've gotten to the University of Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the College of Aces, but studying agribusiness.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Finance and agribusiness, agricultural and consumer economics is my major.
Okay. And what do you want to do with that eventually?
I've had a lot of people ask me that question the last week or two, right? What are your career goals? What's the path you think you're on? At the end of the day, I know I'm just really curious. And what gets me curious and what I like reading about is economics. I like reading about business. I got a couple business podcasts, like The Future of Agriculture with Tim Heinrich, The Business of Agriculture, Damian Mason. Acquired is just a business podcast. I know I love learning about business strategy. I love learning about agriculture, and I love learning about economics. And so I can't really pick out a career just yet. You know, I've talked to people about venture capital and what's that looks like, people at Farm Credit about what they do. I'm not sure where I'm going to fit yet, but I know if I just continue being curious, I'm eventually going to find somewhere that really speaks to me.
Somewhere where there's agriculture and a dollar sign combined then.
Yeah, that'd be a good way to put it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Now, you have made a very quick stop at the University of Illinois, and you started your freshman year, and then you've got an interruption here for a year. What's going to happen in that year as you are national FFA president?
Yeah, well, you say quick turnaround first. It's almost funny. I moved into my dorm in late August, and now I'm already moving out. Like I'm giving stuff to my parents to take home because I cancel my housing contract and I'll be moved out by fall break. So quick turnaround, quick turnaround. But in the next month, I'll wrap up my studies. I'll take my finals. I'll leave for Thanksgiving fall break, and then I'll head out to Indianapolis in December to start training. And after a month or two of training, we'll go on an international experience trip to Japan, which is pretty amazing. I've never been out of the country before, except for actually being in the embassy of Japan in Washington, D.C. So I think that technically counts, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But after that, I'll travel around the country, going to state conventions, FFA camps, conferences, meeting with partners and businesses. And then as we sort of wrap up that travel season, then I will start convention prep and look to October of next year.
And in this process, their National FFA organization gets you acclimated to everything. It kind of probably has a lot of plans for your personal development.
Yeah, there's a lot of plans, and when you first, read the list of things you have to do, it's like drinking out of a fire hose, right? You're like, whoa, here we go. But they do a good job breaking it down. Talking about we're going to do a week of focusing on keynote training to make sure you're best prepared for this next year, facilitation training for all the workshops that you're going to do, training for industry visits. They're going to make sure we're prepared and that when we walk into any situation, we feel like we're ready to adapt, even if things don't go exactly as expected.
But being a farm kid and going into this, I have a feeling you're pretty at ease with it, and you're going to be doing well with it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and I think the farm background is something that I didn't realize how much it would help me. I really didn't, because around me, having a farm background isn't something that's special. You're from a farm. Yeah, that's pretty typical. So is everybody. Especially in Morgan County where there's a lot of corn and soybeans and cattle. It's like, everybody farms. That's cute. But now coming into the FFA organization, being national president, I have that experience.
Right.
And when I talk to industries, whether that's a seed company like Burris, or whether that's CHS or ADM, I have the experience to say, you're trying to see what the farmer wants, and that's my family. That's our operation. I've been at the dinner table where my dad's talking about how it's going to be a hard year, or the corn's doing really well. That's my life, that's my background, and that goes a long way.
When you went to the national convention, you were Illinois State FFA president.
Mm-hmm.
You were selected as one of 36 candidates for higher office. What is that process there? What like you've indicated, you've had 9 different interview sessions or performance sessions or something. Walk us through that process of how you came to be from one of the 37 all the way up to Thad, who's number 1.
So you start with those 37 candidates, and before the first advancement, they call it, where they'll end up cutting around half the candidates, you do a interview with the whole group, the whole nominating committee, the 9 members who are going to be judging you on this process. You do one-on-ones, which are 9 10-minute interviews. So you go in and do an hour and a half of interviews, and then now I'm going to have to call back. You do a stand and deliver round, which is an impromptu speech. So 20 minutes of preparation-ish, and then 5 minutes of delivery, 5 minutes of questions. After those rounds, and a video round that you do before you go out to Indianapolis, which the process is longer now that I look back on it. I mean, even before I got to Indianapolis, 2 months prior, I had to submit an essay, submit a resume, submit a whole application. So that's in this as well. But we get to the first advancement after all those rounds, and 15 candidates are cut. So we go from 37 to 22. And then once you're at 22, you do 2 or 3 more rounds. You do round robins, which are my favorite round. It's when you just have a conversation between you and a media member or an agricultural expert, and just chatting is is something that I enjoy. So that was a good round. You do a last interview round with the whole committee as well, and a facilitation round to show your ability to interact with FFA members and students. And after that, the nominating committee has to go into a room, and they have to decide. And they deliberate, they talk through it, and they pick the 6. And of course, lucky to be one of the 6 now here.
When the 6 were picked, did you know what positions you know what position you're in? Do you know whether you're going to be president or secretary or one of the 4 regional vice presidents?
You are standing there in that session in Lucas Oil with the Chicago Bulls theme song playing, nervous, and you have no idea. And they just start calling names out. They start calling positions, and your Eastern Region vice president is, and you've got no clue. Nerve-wracking.
Were you the first or the last?
I was the last. So 5 names called, 1 spot left, 17 people hoping to be in that one. I mean, to take you back to this moment, right, there's an incredible amount of nerves. I've not only been preparing for this moment for a week of interview rounds, but for months. And when you think about it, what gave me a little bit of peace too is I'd not only been preparing for that moment for 4 months, I'd been preparing for that moment for 19 years. Right. Because it's not just about the small things of preparation, it's about just the person I am, who I've become, where I'm from. Right. And that's what I'm trying to show to the committee. So anyway, we're in that moment. There's all this prep laying on this. I'm nervous. I can't believe it's about to happen. Before they even start calling names, the phrase I start repeating to myself that I found peace in was that I wouldn't change a thing. And I stand by that. I think it would have been hard had I not get elected to truly believe that and to trust that, but I knew in that moment that I would not change a thing. Like I would go through that process and I would stand by every word I said and the way I acted. So I just kept repeating that phrase, right? I wouldn't change a thing, wouldn't change a thing. The 3 vice presidents get called, and four vice presidents. One of them is the Eastern Region vice president. So that's one of my positions, right. Down, right? Yeah. Then secretary, Luke Jennings from Ohio, also in Eastern Region. So we're down to 1. And I'm standing there. And like I am mentally about in the parking garage. Like I mentally packed my bags and left. Like I was gone. I was like, okay, it was a good run. Wouldn't change a thing, but I'll see you guys later. And then you hear, and your national FFA president from Illinois. And then I can send you the picture later because it's pretty funny. There's a series of like 10 pictures where I'm just standing there. And I'm wearing my dad's jacket, by the way. And my face is just like I could have caught horse flies with how open my mouth was, and just take me around and I'm a fly swatter. Like it was just pure shock. And I probably stood there for 3 or 4 seconds just before somebody just finally shoved me up the stage and got me to go up there. So yeah, it's like my soul was kicked out of my body for a second. It was just an out of body experience.
Biggest thing that ever happened to you? No, that had to be the biggest thing that ever happened to you. That was the most excitement and the most weighty.
Yeah, it is for sure. But what's so odd about it, and what I've been still trying to figure out and process on, is like I was more nervous for that moment than I've probably been for anything in my life, right? Absolutely. But after my name got called, and even a little bit before that, there was just an odd sense of peace. Like, and even after I got elected, and I'm up on that stage, and like, I'm shocked, and I'm just looking around, and I think that's part of it, is like when you're shocked, you're almost numb, and you're like, what is happening right now? I think that's part of it, but but there was an odd sense of peace that I'd resigned myself. The Dr. Travis Park, who's the National FFA advisor, he gave us a poem by Rudyard Kipling, If. Don't know if you've read it. And it says, meet triumph and disaster, both of those imposters just the same. And I would have been crushed if I didn't get it right. But in some way, I think my reaction was me meeting triumph and disaster the same, which is that I knew that regardless of the outcome, before I let hindsight trick me into saying you didn't do a good job or you did, that I was happy with the way I conducted myself. And so there was some peace in that. And elected, not elected, an odd sense of calm.
When the year is over, a year from now,
Yeah.
what will you hope that this will have meant to you, and how it will have built you into the Thad Bergschneider that you're going to be the rest of your life? What will you get out of this opportunity, this experience, and what you will have learned?
Yeah. I've been writing a perspectives piece for the Farm Bureau. Hannah Spangler contacted me, and we've started sorting it out. And I started writing, and there are so many things in my life that just changed in the past 10 days that I didn't realize. I started reflecting on them, the amount of people who are willing to talk to me now, or who want to talk to me now, right? The professors who are emailing me saying congratulations. The people within agriculture who are going to be more willing to offer me a job, being at National Convention next year, or in the years after next year for the rest of my life, getting to go into the national officers reception, right? I just became a part of a big family, right? A big family of national officers, a big tradition. This door could open up many opportunities for me. What I'm saying here is there is a lot of things that just changed for me, and opportunities that opened up, but that's not what I want to focus on. And I think at this point, after getting elected 10 days, it's important to reflect on my journey to get here. But what I'm most worried about for the next year is making sure that I use this year to the best of my ability to help other people. Because if I'm focusing on what I'm going to get out of it, I'm not going to use it the way I want to. And so the questions I'm asking myself is, for Thad Bergschneider as a freshman from Franklin FFA, what can I do as National FFA president that's going to help him and 1,027,272 FFA members have the best possible experience? And that's challenging. And that's going to be on the National FFA board, on the National Board of Trustees. There's going to be, long drives and late nights, but the question is not what I'm going to get out of it for the next year. It's how can I give to others, and then we can worry about me after that.
One of the things that I saw that you were quoted about right immediately after your election is that you wanted to meet that one person that needs some inspiration, and that you can inspire. And that to me, I think, is just wraps up concisely what your goal may be then.
Yeah, and I'm laughing because Emma Coons, I don't know if you're familiar, I've talked to her before. Yep, she's one of my mentors. Love her, talk to her all the time. We actually talked about the idea of inspiring. And what we came up with was something interesting. It's that as a leader, to count yourself as an inspiration is in some way a little bit selfish. And when she told me that, I had to reflect on it for a while. It was that's what we talk about in leadership, right? Is going out and inspiring people. But the more and more I thought about it, the more I realized, yeah, she's kind of right. And that even when I meet with members one-on-one, right, my goal is not to inspire them as if I'm some sage who has some wisdom I can depart on others, right? My goal is I want to learn about others, and I want to take an interest in them, and I want to validate them and where they're headed in life, because I don't think I have a secret. I don't think there's any secret sauce or anything I can tell somebody that no one else can. I just think that people need someone to care about them and to show them they care, and I don't think that's a secret. But I'm ready to meet that one person, to give them a smile and to ask them what they're excited about, because that's what I think makes a difference, and that's something that we can all do, right? That's not something special that I have. That's or something special that anyone has in the world. It's something that we can all do if we just take a little more time to notice.
I appreciate your time because you've certainly inspired me here.
Thank you.
And we hope that everyone who's watched this has gotten some inspiration as well. We appreciate the time with Thad Bergschneider, farm kid from Morgan County, Illinois, who's now National FFA President. I'm Stu Ellis.